Good morning. Surprising as it may seem, we are having difficulty getting past a certain hump. You know it. I know it. It is that feeling that even with all our praying, all our reading, all our trying to be better, to think better, to will more strongly, we are still pushing a boulder uphill, and it slides back on us the moment we loosen our grip. Do you see that? It is not for lack of sincerity, nor for lack of hours spent with books and recordings. Frankly, I can't do it for you, nor can the writings or the recordings do it for you. They can point, they can stir, but they cannot carry the boulder because, well, there shouldn't be a boulder to carry. Now let us be very honest about what I mean by striving. Striving is the subtle belief that life is to be overcome by personal force. Better thoughts, better willpower, better technique, more understanding. As if you or I, as a personal mind, could accumulate enough spiritual horsepower to move God. Do you see that? We're not condemning effort. We're uncovering what effort presupposes. It presupposes a selfhood apart from God that must climb to God, reach God, persuade God. And there, right there, is why we can't get past the hump. For the premise is wrong. If the premise is wrong, the conclusion must carry a strain it can never relax. The promise of our time together is not another way to perfect that strain. No, it isn't try harder, but with this improved method. It is the recognition of the moment, an actual moment in consciousness, when personal effort yields and something else takes over. The activity of the Christ, grace, begins to act, not as a reward for all your pushing, but as an impersonal presence that was here before your first reach and remains after your last sigh. And when that takes the field, rest appears at once, and right action flows of itself. Do you follow that? It is not assistance to your striving, it is replacement. I say this with whatever authority belongs not to me, but to the truth itself. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. The instant we assume ourselves to be persons trying to get to God, we have exiled ourselves in concept and must then labor to cross back. But if we begin where reality is, God as the life of us, then the entire drama changes. The boulder disappears because the one who pushed it was a mental image. In these hours, we shall not rest with a beautiful idea. We will outline a step-by-step inner transition you can recognize in yourself. Not to admire, but to live. A way to pause, to consent, to fall back out of the posture of personal doer and let grace announce itself. I am a willing instrument. I'm willing to be still and let you be God. If you will be willing also, just willing, then today that hump begins to crumble. Do you see that? We are not going up to God. We are yielding to God as our own being, and that is the end of striving. Now let us lay a finger right on the nerve. The hidden premise behind almost all of our spiritual struggle is this: I am a human being with a mind and a will, trying to get help from a God. Do you see that? Quietly, without our noticing it, the entire drama is staged as two. Here I am, over there is God, and my job is to improve, to purify, to intensify, until I can bridge the distance. That is duality enacted. That is the separated self reaching outward for supply, for safety, for healing, for approval, for enlightenment. And it produces pressure, not because you are weak, not because you lack sincerity, but because the role itself is a weight. You are carrying an identity that cannot walk into rest because its existence depends on strain. Now I am not blaming the struggler. It is natural, oh perfectly natural, to strive when you believe life is outside and God is elsewhere. The mind says, work harder, think more positively, tighten the grip. The heart says, if only I could feel more love, more fervor. Religion says, if only I could hold the right doctrines. But hear me. Not willpower, not mental force, not emotional intensity, not theological correctness, none of these touches the root. They polish the mask, they do not remove it. Do you follow that? The revelation that ends the pressure is not about making a better person to approach a distant deity. It is this: God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. There are not two here struggling toward union. There is one life appearing as you and as me. This is not duality. This is merely the human form of turning within to recognize what is already true. The strain comes from calling yourself someone other than that one, and then attempting to become spiritual. The instant you identify as a self apart from God, you must strive. The instant you consent to the truth, God as your very life, the breath goes out of the struggle. The burden begins to lift, because it was resting on a false premise. You say, but I feel the pressure in my body, in my finances, in my relationships. Yes, but where did the pressure begin? It began the moment you said within yourself, I must get, I must hold, I must protect, I must persuade God. The separate I manufactures its own weight and then asks for relief from it. And so we do not condemn you for feeling it. We simply will not support the lie that caused it. We will not nurse the belief that you are a mind with a problem trying to contact a God with a solution. We will quietly, persistently, return to the foundation. I and the Father are one. All that God is, I am. The place where I stand, this very consciousness, is holy ground. When the premise shifts, the whole mechanism of pressure loses authority. You are no longer a beggar at heaven's door. You are the living door of heaven's outpouring. You are not reaching across a gap. You are discovering there was never a gap. And with that discovery, even before a single outer change, there is a subtle unhooking inside, like a weight sliding off the shoulders. That is the diagnosis. Correct it at the root and you will feel, here and now, the beginning of rest. Do you see that? Now right here, before we hurry on, let us be very clear about something that has disappointed many of us and will disappoint us again if we miss it. Reading truth, listening to truth, even agreeing with truth, does not stop the battle. As long as truth remains on the page, it is literature. Beautiful, inspiring literature, yes, but literature. When, however, we embody one of the principles, when it lives as our very state of consciousness, then we are living that scripture. Then the word begins to function. Do you see that? You know the cycle. We read and feel lifted. Oh, we feel as if we have been carried above the smoke for an hour. We close the book, glowing. We step out to meet the day. The phone rings, a bill arrives, a diagnosis comes, a loved one misunderstands, and the old machinery starts up. What am I going to do? We reach back to the page for a sentence, repeat it with sincerity, perhaps with urgency. For a moment there is quiet. Then the next wave comes, and the same temptation appears in a new face. And so back we go to more reading, more notes in the margin, more underlining. And yet the battle remains fundamentally the same. Do you follow that? Why? Because spiritual statements are not magic words. They are not charms to place on the condition. The moment you use them to get something, to change something, you have turned the statement into a technique wielded by a person seeking an advantage, a refined form of striving. All that the Father hath is mine, repeated in fear as a key to the bank door, is not realization. It is a plea in disguise. I and the Father are one, used to brace you up for an argument, is not union. It is self-defense. And so we must not take the holy and press it into service for a human self. We are not in the metaphysical platitude cliché business. Do you see that? The purpose of teaching is not to furnish you as a person with superior tools. It is to yield you out of the belief that you are a person. It is to carry you, no, to release you, into the recognition of what already is. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. This is not duality. This is merely the human form of turning within to acknowledge the fact. Reading points to it. Realization is it. The infinite way is not a message. It is an experience. And the transition from reading to realization is never the leap of more information. It is the quieted consent that says within, I can in my own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works. I am a willing instrument. I'm willing to be still and let you be God. In that instant, the word ceases to be a thought in your head and becomes an activity in your being. Grace, the Christ, acting. The greatest achievements have come when there have been no words and no thoughts, only the felt presence moving of itself. That is where we are going. Not another page, but another posture. Not a louder affirmation, but a softer consent. And when that consent is granted, help does not come from you, it comes through you. Then you will observe the same sentence, once merely read, functioning as life, as supply, as wisdom, because it has become your consciousness. Do you see that? Now then, having seen that the word must become activity to function, let us come to the central pivot, without which we merely dress the same old effort in spiritual garments. Real help is not the strength of your understanding. Real help is the activity of the Christ. This help has to come as the activity of the Christ, not as my understanding, not as your cleverness, not as anybody's accumulated metaphysical vocabulary. I can in my own self do nothing. Do you see that? Father, thou doest the works. That is not a lyric to be admired. It is a procedure to be entered. It is a way of standing within yourself in which you relinquish authorship and permit a presence that is already there to announce itself as law, as order, as right action. There are, to put it plainly, two ways to live your day. One is personal management, planning, forcing, controlling, manipulating outcomes by the light of your private fears and hopes. It is subtle. It looks responsible. It feels virtuous. It is also exhausting. The other is instrument living, listening, yielding, letting. You turn within and you acknowledge, God is individual being. God is my being. I am not a little mind calculating its safety. I am the transparency for the one. And then you wait, sometimes a breath, sometimes a minute, until the inner impulse, quiet and unpretentious, says yes or no, now or not now, speak or be silent. Do you follow that? It is not passivity. It is consent to an activity not your own. Prayer, then, is not persuading God to come into the scene. Prayer is consenting to the already present action of divine being in the very midst of the appearance. We are not calling a far-off power into a dark room. We are letting the light that is the room reveal itself. Father, let thy grace be the sufficiency unto this situation. Not make it so, but be what you are here. And then be still. The greatest achievements have come when there have been no words and no thoughts, only the felt presence moving of itself. One touch of the Christ is enough to raise the dead. Do you see that? And if one touch will raise the dead, will it not also order a calendar, heal a grievance, supply a need without your anxious additions? Here is the instant rest. The very moment you stop claiming authorship, I must make this happen, I must defend, I must get, I must fix. That moment, grace becomes consciously active. Not because it was absent and now arrives, but because your interference ceases and you can feel what always is. The strain falls, not after the condition changes, but before. Because the burden was never the condition. The burden was the false role of being the doer. When authorship is surrendered, the Christ does not assist your striving, it replaces it. The action that takes over is impersonal, like gravity, like light. Only this is the law of spirit, and there is no other law. Not laws of matter, not laws of economics, not laws of medical belief, not laws of sin or purity. One law, the activity of God as your being. So practice it right now, simply, quietly. Turn within. I can in my own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works. I am a willing instrument. I'm willing to be still and let you be God. Then do nothing. No planning by fear, no forcing by pride, until the movement of peace rises. When it does, move with that and only that. You will find that words lose their strain, tasks arrange themselves in an order you did not devise, and right action appears without a trace of personal glory. That is the sign. Help did not come from you, it came through you. And that is grace as activity. Do you see that? Now, if grace is the activity, where then is the field of its operation? Let us be exact. The battle is not fought out here on the surface of persons, bodies, bank accounts, or newspapers. The battle is never against a condition. The work is against the acceptance of the condition as reality. Do you see that? The thing that confronts you calls itself by many names: disease, lack, injustice, loneliness. But what presents itself to your senses is a suggestion, a claim, an appearance. And appearances are not met out there, they are met within. Suppose I come to you, insisting that 2 times 2 are 5. Now where will you do your work? Will you fight me, argue with my personality, threaten my arithmetic into submission? No. Quietly, inside, you rest in the fact that 2 times 2 are 4. You do not correct me, you abide in right knowing. And notice, your peace does not depend on my agreement. The claim dissolves for you because you met it where it was trying to register, within your own consciousness. Do you follow that? You haven't got a stubborn person to conquer. You have a false equation to refuse. And the refusal is not noisy. It is simple recognition. This is not law. This is not God. Therefore, it is not reality. The instant you see that, you are automatically removed from competition with materia medica, with psychology, with politics. They are engaged with conditions in their own realm. and let them be faithful in their realm. But you are not there. You are not attempting to fix a liver, repair a budget, or reform a nation from the outside. You are acknowledging God as individual being, God as your being, God as my being, and letting the activity of the Christ reveal itself as law right where the suggestion boasts. This is not duality. This is merely the human form of turning within to the one law and refusing to endow an appearance with power. Striving ties you to the appearance, because striving takes the bait. The more you fight the shadow on the wall, the more substantial it seems, and the more fiercely you swing at it. Fear rises, will stiffens, effort intensifies. Bondage. Do you see that? You have left the realm of truth and are wrestling a picture. The remedy is not a stronger punch, it is a different premise. Recognize the claim as a claim. Withdraw the donation of reality. Then rest a moment, just a moment, in being before you do or say anything at all. And how do you do that? You pause, and you say within yourself, "This is not a person to fix, not a body to coerce, not an economy to appease. This is a suggestion attempting to register. I meet it within." Then you turn, gently, not heroically. "I can in my own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works. Let thy grace be the sufficiency here. I am a willing instrument. I'm willing to be still and let you be God." And you wait. No argument, no pushing. The sense of pressure begins to loosen, and with it a quiet assurance appears. Sometimes an impulse to speak or act rises of itself. Sometimes there is only stillness. Either way, you have refused the battlefield of appearances and taken your stand where victory is already decided. In the recognition that only God is law, only God is cause, only God is reality. From that center, right action, if any, is not your striving. It is grace moving of itself. Do you see that? Now let us come to the very point at which the machinery breaks. You know the build-up. You have prayed, you have affirmed, you have analyzed motives, tightened disciplines, straightened diet, perhaps added one more meditation period, one more recording, one more clever sentence. And then, this is honest work, I know, you meet a wall. The words do not land. The thought will not hold. The will is tired. There is a quiet desperation, as if the very act of trying is sand in the gears. Do you see that? It is not that you have failed. It is that the premise of a personal doer has exhausted itself. At that edge, a simple recognition dawns, and it is like a shaft of clean air. I cannot make the Christ happen. I cannot heal, supply, or guide myself into God. I can in my own self do nothing. And that is not defeat. That is sanity. The more you have tried to manufacture the presence by intensity, the more elusive it has seemed. Not because God withdraws, but because the noise of authorship drowns the hush in which God is known. Do you follow that? So the recognition is not an idea. It is the stopping of the grasping hand inside. Then comes the actual moment. Often it has no words, or it has only these. I am a willing instrument. I'm willing to be still and let you be God. Father, thou doest the works. Let thy grace be the sufficiency here. And then you do nothing. It feels, strangely, like falling backward, a tiny surrender of the forward lean that has run your life. You release the mental argument mid-sentence. You stop propping the mind up with phrases. You let the breath drop. Shoulders loosen. The forehead softens. And there, as if a door quietly opens in a familiar room, a small, unforced peace arrives. Sometimes warmth spreads. Sometimes a clear, simple rightness is just there. Always there is less me managing. Do you see that? That is the moment when you stop trying to get God and discover God is. Understand this. It is not resignation. It is not passivity. It is not pretending the diagnosis isn't printed or the bill isn't due. It is the end of personal authorship and the beginning of divine activity. This is not duality. This is merely the human form of turning within to let the one who is your very being take its own place as law, as order, as sufficiency. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. And in that recognition, the outward scene may not yet have shifted, but the government has changed. Now practice it at the first scent of strain. When fatigue gathers and the mind reaches for the old levers, stop 2 inches short of panic. Turn quietly. I can in my own self do nothing. Wait. Consent. 30 seconds. 2 minutes. Let the tiny fall backward complete itself. Then, and only then, allow whatever impulse rises to lead. Speak or be silent. Move or rest. If nothing comes, stay in the peace and do nothing rash. You will know the Christ is taking over by the absence of pushing, by the rightness that requires no boasting, by tasks arranging themselves as if under a wiser hand. Do you see that? Christ consciousness takes the field the instant you cease trying to become spiritual and consent to already being God's being. That instant is always available. Return to it, and striving, having lost its author, has no breath left with which to argue. Now how shall you recognize that the Christ has begun to take over? Very simply. The center from which you live changes. Decisions no longer issue out of fear's arithmetic, out of counting dollars, opinions, tomorrows, and dangers, but out of a gentler inner impulse that needs no argument to justify itself. There is a yes or a no that is not a voice, not a vision, but a quiet rightness. You feel it as a soft release into one direction, or a simple absence of permission in another. Do you see that? It is not dramatic. It is clean, and it leaves no residue of self-congratulation. You will observe certain markers. First, less interior talk. The mind which once chattered now simplifies. Urgency falls away. The clock still keeps its hours, but hurry loses its crown. Tasks line up of themselves without your whipping them into order. You are carried, not pushed. And with that, a new compassion appears, without strain, without the sense that you must fix anyone or make them understand. You can be present without project. Action, when it comes, is clear and without agitation. Inaction, when it is called for, is equally clear and without guilt. Do you follow that? Guidance will not necessarily arrive as words. Do not wait for thunder. Often it is a slight inward nod, a natural next step that seems to choose you. Sometimes it is simply the disappearance of alternatives until only one path remains, and it does not feel self-generated. Peace is the governor. If you must stir yourself with fear or pride to move, wait. I can in my own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works. Let the impulse arise of itself. Then you move with authority, but not with heat. This is not duality. This is merely the human form of turning within and letting the One who is your very being be the law and the order of your affairs. Now beware the old tempter, who comes immediately to pin a medal on your chest. I did it. My practice worked. My faith brought this through. No. Stop right there. That is the swiftest way back into strain. The instant personal pride lays claim, the current is kinked. You return at once to the inner, wordless bow. Father, Thou doest the works. Thy grace is the sufficiency here. Nothing came from me. Everything came through me. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. Do you see that? Without a trace of egotism, the doing proceeds, and you are transparent to it. And yes, there will be fluctuations. The old instinct to manage will reappear. You will find yourself 2 steps into hurry before you notice. That is not failure. That is your cue. Stop, 2 inches short of panic. Turn within. Return to the moment, the little fall backward, again and again, until this no longer feels like a moment at all, but a climate. Short intervals, many times a day, until the new center holds. In time, what was occasional becomes native. Life moves with less strain and more inner rightness, and there is no one left to boast. Do you see that? That is how you know. Now, as soon as this new center begins to form, life very kindly supplies a classroom. A bill arrives. Can I afford this? A twinge rises in the body. What if I get worse? A silence or a sharp word in the home. What if they leave? A project looms. What if I fail? And another, sly and polished. What if I am not right? Do you see that? Each one is the same invitation in a new coat. Life is outside. Secure it by personal effort. The forms differ. The premise is identical. And so we do not fight 10,000 different dragons. We meet one suggestion 10,000 times. We meet it within. Let us take money. Can I afford this? Very often that question is not prudence. It is fear disguised as wisdom. It proposes that supply is in the bank book, in the client list, in the market, and that you, as a private manager, must calculate your safety. Now, of course, numbers have their place, but first, turn within. Father, is this for us right now? Let thy grace be the sufficiency here. I can in my own self do nothing. Thou doest the works. And then wait 30 seconds, a minute, until the agitation drops and an impulse not born of fear rises. Sometimes the impulse says, not now. Sometimes it says, proceed. Sometimes it says, call, renegotiate, release this expense. Notice, this is not reckless spending. It does not mean, charge everything because God is my Father and therefore I am rich. It means placing responsibility where it belongs, on being, and then taking whatever ordinary steps appear, but from rest, not from panic. Do you see that? Health. What if I get worse? The symptom appears, and instantly the mind becomes a searchlight scanning tomorrows. Here again, the claim is that life is outside, in flesh, chemistry, climate, and that you must seize control. Stop 2 inches short of panic. Meet the suggestion where it seeks to register. This is an appearance. Father, thou doest the works. Let thy grace be the law of this very place. Rest a moment until peace, even slight, begins to govern. From there, you may take sensible steps, consult a physician, rest, follow a regimen, without worshiping the step and without fear driving it. You are automatically removed from competition with materia medica because you are not trying to fix a body as cause. You are acknowledging God as individual being, and then allowing grace to appear as wisdom, as care, as order. Do you follow that? This is not ignoring symptoms, it is refusing to enthrone them.
Relationships. What if they leave? What if they never understand? What if I do not say the perfect sentence right now? Underneath is the belief that love and approval are commodities out there to be earned by performance. Turn within. Let thy love be the sufficiency here. Am I to speak or be silent? To apologize or to wait? And wait until the inward nod comes. Sometimes you will make the call and confess your part. Sometimes you will refrain and allow space. Either way, the act is free of bargaining. And when the old heat to be right rises, oh, it will. See it for what it is. A hungry self needing confirmation because it believes its life is outside. Drop the sword. I can in my own self do nothing. Truth does not require your temper to defend it. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. Do you see that? From that basis, you may state a fact or keep silence, but the sting is gone. Work and failure. What if I fail?
The future arranges itself into a courtroom with you on trial. This is the same claim again. Life is in outcomes, reputations, metrics. Stop. Father, is this mine to do? Is this for us right now? Wait. If yes, you proceed with a light yoke and surprising resourcefulness. Doors open, people appear. The order of tasks simplifies. If no, you release it without drama and discover that saying no from being is as fruitful as saying yes.
Now hear this and rest in it. These temptations do not prove you are failing. They reveal where you still believe life is outside and must be earned. That is their gift. Every time they knock, you have an altar at hand. Turn within. Place responsibility where it belongs. Consent to the one who is your very being. Then take the next ordinary step. Pay a bill. Draw up a budget. Make an appointment. Write the apology. Study your lesson. But do it from listening, not from forcing. From peace, not from fear. This is not duality. This is merely the human form of turning within and letting grace be the activity of your day. And you will find that even in the humblest errands, the strain is gone and the rightness remains. Do you see that? Now, since we are to let grace be the activity of our day, let us make it very practical, very simple. Several times a day, 3, 4, 5 times, take 3 to 5 minutes and stop all mental work. Do not fix, do not plan, do not rehearse. Withdraw attention from the person, the project, the body, the clock. Turn within. Not to think about God, but to yield to God. Do you see that? Sit gently and let the inner posture say, I can in my own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works. Thy grace is sufficient. Let thy grace be the sufficiency unto this moment, this body, this home, this decision. And then be still. Use the words only as a doorway, not as a lever. Words quiet the mind. They do not move God. 1 or 2 sentences, no more,
are enough to settle you out of authorship and into consent. Then drop the words and wait. Not a grim waiting, not a stopwatch waiting, but a soft waiting in which the grasping hand opens. Do you follow that? You sit until the striving mechanism begins to lose its edge. At first, it may be only the faintest easing, a slight untying behind the eyes, a sense, barely there, of presence. That is sufficient. Rest there. Do not try to improve it. Do not reach for more. Let the presence announce itself in its own measure. This is your practice, not to achieve a state, but to stop interfering long enough for grace to be noticed. 3 minutes morning, 3 at midday, 3 in the afternoon, 3 before sleep. More if the day presses, less if the current carries you. Short, frequent intervals. Between intervals, go about your affairs, but from the residue of that stillness. This is not duality. This is merely the human form of turning within and allowing the one who is your very being to govern its own expression. Now a warning, because the old habit will try to take this over. The minute you begin to measure or compare, today was deeper than yesterday. I felt more warmth last week. Why didn't peace come this time? You have returned to striving. Stop at once. Smile inwardly at the tempter that keeps a ledger. Drop the comparison. Say quietly, Father, that doest the works. Thy grace is the sufficiency here. And return to the unhurried waiting. Do you see that? No medals, no grades, no performance. Only consent. And if, during a period, thoughts surge, let them pass like birds across a wide sky. Do not chase them. Do not fight them. Gently re-enter the inner posture. I am a willing instrument. I'm willing to be still and let you be God. If nothing is felt at all, still you have been faithful, because you have refused to manufacture God, and you have declined to manage life for 3 holy minutes. That refusal opens the door more than emotion ever could. In time, you will notice a current becoming familiar, more ease in the chest, more space around choices, a rightness that needs no argument. You will rise from these intervals not with a plan, but with an instinct, and you will move when moved. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. Do you see that? Let the practice be as simple as breathing. Stop, yield, wait, and rest, until grace, already present, is consciously felt. Then live from there. Now invariably, as this inner current becomes familiar, your heart turns toward those you love who are in pain, in confusion, in need. And here, very quietly, the old habit of striving puts on a holy robe and calls itself compassion. I must get a healing for them. I must fix their situation. I must find the words that will change them. Do you see that? It is the same personal authorship, only now it wears concern. Anxiety-driven prayer is still anxiety. Mental projection, trying to push truth into another mind, is still pushing. And the strain, the very weight you feel for them, is the sign that you have slipped back into being a private savior. True service is different. It is not influence. It is not projection. It is not your spiritual energy attempting to invade a problem. True service is instrumentality, being an open avenue for the activity of the Christ. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. Therefore, the help does not travel from your mind to theirs. It wells up from the one within both and reveals itself where the need seems to be. This is not duality. This is merely the human form of turning within so that the one who is the life of all may take its own place as law and sufficiency. Do you follow that?
So when someone asks for help, let your first word be yes, but let us go to God together. And then, within yourself, I can in my own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works. Let thy grace be the sufficiency unto this individual, unto this situation. Drop every image of outcome. Drop their name and history. Rest until concern loosens and peace, even a small degree, replaces it. One touch of the Christ is enough to raise the dead. Do you see that? Then, and only then, if an impulse rises, speak. If there is no impulse, be still. Sometimes the only word that comes is, "We are going to be quiet a minute." Sometimes you are moved to make a call, bring a meal, write a check. The act is the same. Grace through you, not effort from you. This manner of helping prevents the very bondage that so often attaches itself to religious aid: dependency. If your presence makes them believe that you, as person, are their access to God, then it is not Christ help. It is personal power in spiritual clothing. A man or a woman sins when they leave you believing that you, in any wise, need them. If I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. Do you see that? So even as you help, you point them inward. Let us go to God together, yes. And after we have touched that peace, now go into your own room and do likewise. Do not come to me for answers. Come with me to the source. This does not make you cold. It makes you pure in your giving. You refuse to carry another's burden as a weight because you refuse the premise that the burden is law. You meet the suggestion within and yield to the same grace for both. Then the ordinary kindnesses arise without strain. A ride to the appointment, a listening ear, a wise referral. But the yoke is light because the authorship is gone. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. We help most when we stop trying to fix others and yield together to the Christ already present. Do you see that? Then no one is made small, no one is made large, and the glory remains where it belongs. Now let us say it plainly. Because love must sometimes speak with an edge, any teaching that leaves you dependent has failed its purpose. If, after all our hours together, you still think that your access to God comes through me, through an organization, through a technique, then we have missed the heart. If I go not away, the Comforter will not come to you. Do you see that? The Comforter must come within you, or it has not come at all. Frankly, I can't do it for you, nor can the writings or the recordings do it for you, except as they nudge you to your own inner realization. At best, I am an instrument pointing you to the place where you stand as holy ground. This is why subtle forms of spiritual striving are so sticky. We stop striving at home and immediately start striving in religion. The next conference, the next transmission, the next technique, the next teacher. We are perpetually almost arriving. That is not arrival. That is a refined wandering. No more shall you worship in this holy mountain, nor yet in that temple, but in spirit and in truth. Do you follow that? Chasing atmospheres and personalities is only the old self in a new coat. It keeps you outside your own sanctuary, forever deferring the hour when you sit down and let God be God where you are. My role is not mediator.
I am not between you and your source. I am a willing instrument. I can in my own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works. I'm willing to be still and let you be God. If my presence does not lead you to discover that presence within yourself, then I have not served you. I would rather go away, tear up the notes, cancel the engagements, than have one soul imagining they need me. A man or a woman sins when they leave you believing that you in any wise need them. Do you see that? Tie this back to the one premise that bears all weight. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. Therefore, supply is not imported. It is recognized. Guidance is not advised into you from outside. It wells up as the quiet yes or no that is native to your own being. Healing is not shipped to you by the strong faith of another. It appears as grace revealing the law of God right where you are. The place where you stand is holy ground. Not laws of matter, not laws of reputation, not laws of organization. Only the one law, already present within your consciousness as the Christ. How then do you move from dependency to liberty? Begin at the very moment you reach for a human crutch. Stop 2 inches short of it. Turn within. Father, is this for us right now? Wait. If an impulse rises to read, to call, to attend, go. But go as one already complete, seeking confirmation, not salvation. If no impulse rises, be still, and let the sufficiency of grace be felt before any outer step. In this way, teachers become friends, books become reminders, gatherings become fellowships, none of them a lifeline. And now freedom appears. You are no longer vulnerable to the comings and goings of personalities or systems because you have found the Christ as your own life. This is not duality. This is merely the human form of turning within until you know, not as theory, but as life, that all that God is, I am. All that the Father hath is mine. Christ consciousness ends spiritual dependency because it reveals God as your own being, not someone else's possession. Do you see that? Then walk in it, gently, and do not look back. And so let us bring it down to the one simple act by which everything we have said becomes life. We began with the hump of striving, honest, exhausting effort that seemed spiritual, yet left a residue of pressure. We diagnosed its root, the quiet assumption of a selfhood apart from God, attempting to climb into God. Then the revelation. God is individual being. God is your being. God is my being. From there, the practice was not to add effort, but to yield. The battle was not with conditions, but with the belief that appearances are reality. The moment of release felt like falling backward as authorship dropped and activity became grace. From that instant, a new living began, not as a doer, but as an instrument, guided by an inner rightness, tested by ordinary temptations, sustained by short, faithful periods of doing nothing until the current is felt, and kept pure by helping without creating dependence. Do you see that? It is a straight line, and it ends where it began, right here, in you, in this moment. Now hear me. This does not require spiritual heroism. It requires childlike willingness. Not a giant leap, not a perfected practice, but a small, honest stop. Several times a day, and especially at the first scent of strain, you lay down the tools. You do not first strategize. You do not compute outcomes. You turn within. You say, quietly, I can in my own self do nothing. Father, thou doest the works. Let thy grace be the sufficiency here. Then you wait, not grimly, not counting seconds, just long enough for the grasping hand to open. This is not duality. This is merely the human form of turning within until the one who is your very being takes its own place as law and order. When the next pressure rises, a bill, a symptom, a quarrel, a calendar crowded to the edges, recognize the claim as appearance attempting to be law. Meet it where it seeks to register, within. This is an appearance. Father, is this for us right now? Show me whether to move or to be still. Wait until even a thin piece appears, then take the next simple step without strain. If nothing comes, do nothing rash. Do you follow that? The doing will arise of itself when the doing is His. The place where you stand is holy ground, and you need not run to find it. Let us close with the prayer that makes this practical. Father, here I am. Use me. Live my life. Let the activity of the Christ be the law unto this day, unto this mind, unto this body, unto this home. I am a willing instrument. I'm willing to be still and let you be God. Thy grace is sufficient. God is individual being. God is my being. And now the promise. The turning point is always now. The moment you yield is the moment you enter rest. Return to this moment again and again until it becomes your life. And you will find that life has quietly become God's life, living itself as you. Do you see that? Then go in peace.